There we go.
How's it going, John?
It is going well, Eric. How are you doing in the snowy April Northwest?
That was crazy.
It really was.
And there's supposedly some big weather coming through tonight, too. I don't think it's going to be snow, but it's supposed to be thunderstorms, which is something we don't normally have here either.
I do not live in Oregon for the snow.
No.
I think that somebody didn't get the memo. It snowed in Oregon this past Monday, and since it was April, it was such a heavy snow and since the trees are all like leafing out, they have a lot more surface area. So it has resulted in chaos in many parts of the Portland metro area.
Yes.
Lots of downed trees, downed branches, downed things. There's parts of the West Hills that, as far as I know, the roads are still closed. They were showing them closed on the news this morning.
Mm-hmm.
Not great.
No.
Any ramifications at your place?
No, we got a little bit of snow, but it was gone by the afternoon. We got maybe an inch, total. Not a whole lot. Enough to make the neighbor kids excited.
Yeah.
School started 2 hours late. Yeah. And that was pretty much it.
Yeah. I went out for a walk today, and on the north side of, we've kind of got this. It's not really a shed. I guess it's kind of like a greenhouse tunnel thing, just with plastic over the top of it. But it faces east-west, so the north side of it never sees the sun. It still has snow. I'm sure it got piled up because everything fell off the roof, so it was a nice thick pile. But it's still been relatively chilly. Anyway, well, other than that, anything fun this weekend?
So my wife went out of town. She went to a bridal shower for a wedding we're going to in a few weeks.
Uh-huh.
And unfortunately, she got there. Well, let me back up a little bit. So we have some friends who their baby girl, I think she's 2, maybe 3, got really sick.
Uh-oh.
Like was throwing up, to the point they had to take her to the hospital and, pump some fluids into her, get her an IV and pump some fluids into her.
Not good.
And they were, my wife ended up having to go to the hospital and pick them up because, for reasons. So she went to pick them up, got home like that morning, and then a couple hours later, got on a plane, went to Arizona for the bridal shower, and that evening was sick with the stomach flu.
Dun.
Basically spent the week, and it was supposed to be a short, she went down Friday. What a
terrible wedding shower.
Yeah, she went down Friday and was going to come home Sunday. And so she didn't go to the wedding shower. I mean, she said hi to people, but pretty much holed up in a room and just so she didn't make other people sick. And, anyways. So, but she even had to push her flight a day because she couldn't fly.
They don't in fact, they want you to attest that you're not sick.
Yeah. Well, fortunately it wasn't COVID or anything, but she did not have a pleasant weekend. So my boy and I, while mom was gone, went out and he wanted to take pictures with his new camera. Mm-hmm. And so we went out scouting places to go take pictures, but it was overcast and not that great. The weekend was okay, but we ended up going up to Council Crest Park. It's like in the top of the West Hills.
Okay.
up on top, above the tunnel going in, to 26 tunnel into downtown, right? It's kind of up in that area, Sylvan Hills, up in that area. And it was cold, but there was a ton of bicycle riders there. They had some event that was going on, so it was just filled with bicycle riders. So he had a great time just taking pictures of other stuff, And we ended up not going. We were going to go to Mount Hood, and we were going to go to a couple other places, but the weather was not friendly enough. We ended up just sticking around. So
yeah.
But he got some cool pictures, and he was excited about it. So that was kind of my weekend, was taking pictures and then talking to my poor wife on the phone and trying to make her feel better.
I'm so sorry. That's bad.
All good.
That's bad. I don't think I did anything of note this weekend. I'm still kind of babying my back, so I didn't try and do anything. Laundry, dishes,
Right.
read, sat around the house. I don't know. I know I did a few kind of house projects, minor little things, but today was a big day though, because I had an electrician come. I think I mentioned that we bought a car. I think I mentioned on the podcast we bought
plug-in
a
hybrid.
Plug-in hybrid a couple months ago, and we've just been trickle charging it. Came with a trickle charger,
Right?
Which it takes 11 hours to charge a tiny battery. This is not something you would do with an actual electric vehicle, but I mean, I can do electricity, so kind of sometimes. But my wife was of the opinion that A, it would like never get done, and B, if I burn the barn down, or my shop down, it's not really that big of a deal to her. But if I did to the house, it might be a bigger deal. So she was of the opinion that we should call an electrician, and so anyway, they came today and put in. And since they were here putting that one in, I had them just install two 220 volt or 220 volt circuits, 40 amp, and I bought a charger off Amazon. And so in the garage. Oh, and so they had to fish the wire up from the box and install new breakers and lots of stuff, which was totally cool. And I'm so glad that the charger came from Amazon today, because it literally has maybe a 12-inch plug on it.
I saw the picture you sent.
And like, if I had not installed that on the wall first, I don't know, I would have been very constrained on where I could put the box.
Right.
But it turned out that the electricians took off for lunch, and they didn't have the plug that I needed, which I had told them what it was beforehand, or I'd sent a picture, but it doesn't matter. So they had to go get some parts anyway. So, but they were gone for lunch, or around the lunch hour. So at lunchtime, I ran upstairs, took it out of the box, found the stud on the wall by where I had told them to drop it down, and installed it, and then texted the guy the picture and said, so install the box where it belongs. And they did, and it was great. But I thought the funny thing about the day too. So I'm really excited about that. And so now it's going to take 3 hours instead of 11 and a half hours to charge the car.
Right.
So that's cool. So they were pretty fast. So they were done faster than I thought they would be. But I was like, so if you guys are done early, can I ask you about a couple other things? Not the thing that any contractor wants to have somebody say. But they were really nice, and he was like, oh, totally. What do you got? And so I'm like, so my doorbell, I think the transformer must be broken because it doesn't work. And he's like, yeah, it's a Ring doorbell. I'm like, and he's like, yeah, Ring doorbells don't work with wired chimes. I'm like, are you sure? He's like, yep. Got to go buy one of these things. I'm like, all right, fine. So he sent me a link to what I need to get. And then I'm like, okay, so this light down here, I replaced the ballast in this fluorescent light. You can't see me, or you can see me, but the listeners can't see me. I'm pointing at the fluorescent lights above my head. I'm like, I replaced the ballast, but the light won't come on. And so he takes it down, and he's like, oh yeah, you have to wire. Basically, you have to wire the yellows from one half to the red and blue from the other, and vice versa. And I'm like, well, that's not how it was wired up at first, but okay, whatever. And he's like, yeah, well, it technically shouldn't matter if the transformers were well spec'd, but they're not very high quality, and so it's sensitive. And so anyway, in 5 minutes he fixed that. I was like, oh, well, that's cool. And then I'm like, so okay, this plug out back, like the GFCI doesn't unplug, or doesn't trip, and I do I have a short, or what's going on? And he pulls it apart, and he's like, he disconnected the downstream, and he's like, oh no, you have a multimeter, and I know how to use a multimeter, but anyway, he's like, yeah, you got power here, but and when he took the load off, it still wouldn't reset, and he's like, oh, your GFCI is bad. And I guess I didn't even think about that. But anyway, he just replaced the plug, and then it works. And I was like, well, look at that. You just knocked out 3 long-standing electrical issues that have been like on the back and bottom of my list for more than a year in a couple of these things where, you know, it hasn't been important, but he in like 10 minutes he did it. And this is the kicker. He didn't turn off the power for anything.
Right.
I'm like, and I said to him, I'm like, you sure you don't want me to even turn off the switch? He's like, no, it's cool. I'm like, I guess you're the pro. I am the not.
Yeah.
And he's like, anyway. But yeah, he did everything live. I was short. I don't know. Just boom, boom, boom. Anyway, it's good to, you know, have a pro sometimes. And I think my wife was right on having had.
I agree with your wife.
And on the other side, I guess evidently they got a permit or something, whatever that is, because an inspector's going to come check out their work at some point here. Which okay. I'm like, oh, well, I guess that's what happens when you're a professional. Yeah. Don't go look in the barn. Please. Anyway, no comment. Anyway, that was a fun day today. I was happy about the charger, and then I was even happier actually about the other 3 things. So anyway,
slightly related to electrical issues, I have a bunch of Wemo smart plugs.
Yep.
That I can only assume they have just degraded over time, and they just stop showing. They'll appear so that I can turn them off, and then they'll just disappear, or they won't. You know, when you ask the cylinder to turn it on or off, it only does it half the time, and it keeps getting worse and worse and worse.
Huh.
And I can't. And so I have played with them. I have reset them. I've factory reset them. I've made sure their firmware's up to date. I have done everything I am willing to do.
Have you looked at the board to see if you have loose solder joints?
No. And so I have given up on them. And it was very easy to give up on them because I found, I swear my phone is listening to me because I'm mumbling curses.
It's not your phone, it's Google.
Yeah, about these things. And I get hey, you want 4 of these new Casa brand? Exactly the same thing, works the same thing. The only thing that Casa doesn't do is Apple HomeKit, which
sure?
I don't really use anyways. At least the smart plugs that I bought, these E10, it says, because I think it was a Samsung Smart Things initially. Okay. So it does Alexa, Google, and Smart Things. So not you. Sorry. The cylinder woke up.
Okay, Google.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So they are 2 days away, and they will show up, and I will replace things and see if I'm much happier with my little devices. So
I'm trying to look at how do I...
That's what I was going to ask. You have a bunch of little Casa switches, I think.
I do. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I've got 8. Well, looks like I've got 6 plugs and 2 switches.
Yeah.
Because I have it so that, I use this all the time. Dingus, turn on my shop light.
Right.
Which, because I is awesome. And I honestly, I have that for the air compressor too, which I'm wondering, do they have a limit on how much load they'll take? I don't know that they're expecting.
Amps. They do.
Yeah, it's not going to run more than 15 amps. Really?
Yeah.
All right. Well, so far so good. It's been fine.
Yeah,
I could turn my air compressor on right now. And anybody who's listening's air compressor that happens to be named air compressor. But anyway, I have been very happy with the Casas so far. And I mean, I don't know why. I think I started with them a couple years ago, just, one of the Black Friday deals on Amazon.
Right.
Got a couple for, I don't know, 20 or 30 bucks. And so I've gotten more of that. I don't know. That's not that many, but it's...
Well, it was $25 for 4.
Wow, that's cheap.
And I thought okay.
That's super cheap.
For $25, I can replace the 4 pains in my neck.
Totally.
The horrible thing though is I have 1 older model Wemo switch and 4 newer models. The older model works just fine. It's all the newer models.
Yeah.
You know.
Quality control.
Yeah.
See, look, I could turn on the lights in my son's bedroom right now if I wanted to be a mean father. Okay. That would be bad. Put down the phone. Yeah. Put down the phone, John.
Alrighty.
Anyway. Okay. Oh, my gracious.
Articles.
All right. Articles. Security. What'd you bring me?
This week, I was poking through some Apple. Apple has a recent security update. And in general, the family, the larger family, will ping me and say, hey, there's a new security update. Is it bad? Should I upgrade? And my answer is always yes. But, I came across this article in ZDNet that made some comments on, quickly patching your Apple stuff is important. And here's why, right? There's this myth that Apple products are more secure. They don't get hacked. They don't get malware, which of course is not exactly true. The article, I'll quote the article. This is a dangerous myth that continues to circulate despite being total garbage.
Total garbage.
Not mincing words there. Anyways, so the comment of the article is, the Apple, let's see, where are the numbers again? So Apple's products and vulnerabilities found in Apple's products has surged 467% in the second half of 2021, up from 380 exploits, up from 67 in the first half of 2021.
That's amazing.
So that puts Apple's number of vulnerabilities pretty close to Google and Microsoft. Google has 511, which are mostly Chrome browser, and Microsoft has 428. So according to the report, so this article cites a report from Telefonica Tech Cybersecurity, and it shows that a good chunk of Apple's vulnerabilities are related to the Safari web browser and, iOS and macOS. The majority of Microsoft's vulnerabilities are in versions of Windows or Office tools or the Edge browser, and Google's are around the Android operating system and the Chrome browser, which I don't know why it calls those out all separately, because those are pretty much all the same thing. An operating system and a browser, an operating system and a browser, an operating system and a browser for all 3.
You think?
So what do people use?
I guess Google has Android. When you were comparing Microsoft and Google, I was like, Google's running a browser. Like Chrome, there's a lot. But Windows has a large surface area.
Yeah. So anywho,
interesting.
That's what caught my eye this week, was just another point that, hey, if you're on the Apple ecosystem and have bought into I'm on Apple because it's much more secure, not a fact.
More secure, maybe. Like
more secure
safe?
than other things. More safe. Yeah.
Safe, not.
No. And this article actually linked to another article about the EU and the US pushing Apple, Microsoft, Google, Facebook to open up their app stores and open up their messaging platforms to interoperate. And Tim Cook is quoted in the article saying, if we do that, it'll make our platform way less secure, because our walled garden means we get to keep it more secure. And as this article points out, it's no more or less secure than anybody else. So
I'm trying to picture, the security updates that Apple has put in around in messages around, what is it, Blastdoor?
Yeah. We talked about that a couple of years ago. Yeah.
What would you? It's not like messages these days are just text.
Right.
Like SMS, or, even SMS isn't just SMS these days.
No.
So, yeah. Anyway, it's like statistics.
Mm-hmm.
It's not an incorrect statement, but it's not enough. It's inaccuracy by omission. Yeah. I don't know.
It depends on which tunnel you're looking down.
Exactly. Well, I kind of have 3 topics tonight, so let's get into them. The first one, I liked this Twitter thread, and I did a little bit of Googling to see if it was picked up by any news site. Not even Catalan. That's what it'd get for him not being at the Record or something like that. I bet you he would have written an article about this. But this is, so it's not an article, it's a Twitter thread about the fun of an embedded node interpreter in Adobe Creative Cloud. There are others that do this, but this is I don't know if I've seen this. I've heard of, LOOPBins, living off the land binaries,
right?
But which normally, at least I think of that as using PowerShell and other interpreters and WMI and just executables that already exist on the operating system. This is LOOPBin is what he's calling this, so maybe this is a real thing and I just am out of it, but living off other people's binaries, because, so Adobe has an install of Node in their directory. And so he's like, why is this interesting, do you ask? Well, because you can then get that version of Node to run JavaScript for you. And then, like, if you're trying to evade an EDR or something like that, you're not running C-script. Okay, cool. But what if you can actually or not if you can, but it says Adobe's installation of Node comes complete with a package.json and Node modules folder. So if you can compromise one of those dependencies, either by putting something of your own in there, overwriting a file, or just going in and editing code, you could get it to do whatever you want. So it's interesting. So there's a subthread of this on by Swift on Security, somebody else I follow in here, but that said, my understanding is this was originally designed to only run signed Adobe stuff. And they're like, well, as far as I could tell, if you can run anything. And so he's like, yeah, it seems whoever told me that was wrong. Self-protection is what this is known as in the AV space, right? I mean, as an AV vendor, we're targeted as either to disable or to, leverage our privilege on the system to do other things. And so, AV software in general is required. It's important for AV software to be vigilant for tampering and self-protection. So anyway, I could certainly think of how you would do some things in here, but not without having more access than an app should have. So I don't know, so how do you prevent an executable from loading other software when it's got command line values? I mean, if they do their own build of that software, sure, you could do it there because you could make code changes in it. But if you want to prevent something from running, you have to, it's kind of a general principle, you have to, in order to observe and control something, you have to generally be one level below it, right, in the stack. Otherwise, something that's below you can fake what you see. If you're a peer to whatever it is, you're vulnerable to being spoofed. So anyway, anyway, I thought this was interesting. I didn't actually see an article picked up on it. Maybe it's an older thing. I Googled, like I said, I Googled if there was something here. The top search result was, ironically, somebody on an Adobe forum saying that their vulnerability scanner says that they were shipping an out-of-date and vulnerable version of Node. And somebody saying, oh, yep, all right, well, we'll fix that. We'll update the version of Node. Not sufficient.
Right.
All right. my second article is about Patch Tuesday.
Patch Tuesday, yesterday.
Yes. And it was, you said Microsoft at the end of the latter 6 months of 21 had 428 vulnerabilities. They released 120 yesterday.
Fixes for 120.
I'm sorry. Yes, exactly. Thank you. They fixed 120 yesterday.
Okay.
But there are several in there that, I didn't pull out the number. I think they were, I didn't pull it out, so I shouldn't quote it. There were several that were, rated critical, including 2 that were disclosed earlier, but one of which the NSA has said is under active exploitation. So that's exciting. That's the CVE 2022-24521 privilege escalation vulnerability in, it says in the Windows Common Log File System driver. So in its advisory, Microsoft said it received a report from the NSA that the flaw was under active attack. Another big one in this is the one that actually JR posted some stuff in Slack today is 2022-26809, which is a 9.8 score potentially wormable bug in RPC. And so that explains why I glanced at Twitter this morning and saw somebody saying, why would you still have port 445 open at your firewall?
Yeah. I've seen people posting screenshots of Twitter and Shodan results of how many open servers in various countries that are currently in the news have open with comments like, don't do it. Don't do it.
Don't be like my brother.
That's right.
So yeah, that's a big one. Then there's other 2 more, 24491 and 24497 that are NFS vulnerabilities that are also rated 9.8, and all 3 of those last ones, Microsoft rates as exploitation more likely than not. And then there's another one that's 24500 that is in SMB. So Microsoft advises, this is a quote, Microsoft advises blocking TCP port 445 at the perimeter firewall, which is strong advice regardless of this specific vulnerability. I'll keep reading. While this won't stop exploitation from attackers inside the local network, it will prevent new attacks originating from the internet. Sometimes firewalls are still good if you actually have a network. A lot of people probably don't have networks these days, or if they do, they're just natted. So don't let 445 through your NAT. Okay, so that was topic number 2. Topic number 3 was also posted by JR in Slack today, and this is about Pipe Dream. Now, he posted a Dragos article on this, as well as a Wired article, but I'm going to link to the Wired one because it was a little more general consumption. I'll read this first paragraph. Malware designed to target industrial control systems like power grids, factory, water utilities, and oil refineries represents a rare species of digital badness. So when the United States government warns of a piece of code built to target not just one of those industries, but potentially all of them, critical infrastructure owners worldwide should take notice. So, and that's what...
Malware as a service.
That's what happened yesterday. Well, it's division of labor. It's the single responsibility principle. It's a toolkit.
Yeah.
It's Legos. The Legos work in the digital world too.
Mm-hmm.
So this says, more than any previous industrial control system hacking toolkit, the malware contains an array of components designed to disrupt or take control of the functioning of devices, including programmable logic controllers that are sold by Schneider Electric and Omron, and are designed to serve as the interface between traditional computers and actuators and sensors in industrial environments. Another component of the malware is designed to target Open Platform Communications Unified Architecture, or OPC-UA servers, which are the computers that communicate with those controllers. So that's kind of the other thing, and that both the Dragos and the Wired article made a point of saying is, yeah, it looks like the initial things are targeted by Schneider and Omron, but it's general enough, and they attacked. I think the Dragos article might have said they attack a component that's down low enough in there that's used by many other systems. So what about this? So Dragos declined to comment on the malware's origin, so I don't know, but they say this is Caltagirone. I don't know how you pronounce their name. This is somebody from Dragos, says it doesn't appear to have been actually used against a victim, or at least it hasn't yet triggered physical effects on a victim's industrial control systems. We have high confidence it hasn't been deployed yet for disruptive or destructive effects. But it is the most expansive industrial control system attack tool anyone has ever documented. And then there's a bunch of other info in here about sort of the background on some of this. I think when Stuxnet was first revealed, I guess, years ago, it was mind blowing that such a thing could exist, and that was for people that might not remember. That was what developed by the U.S. and Israel to target the centrifuges for uranium enrichment in Iran.
Yeah. Now it's a toolkit.
Yeah. Well, it was later released, right? Or not released, but it was later. What else to say about this one? Oh yeah, it is CodeSys. Here's the quote. He notes that while the toolkit, which Dragos calls Pipe Dream, appears to specifically target Schneider Electric and Omron PLCs, it does so by exploiting underlying software in those PLCs known as CodeSys, which is used far more broadly across hundreds of other types of PLCs. This means that the malware could easily be adapted to work in almost any industrial environment. The toolset is so big it's basically a free-for-all. There's enough in here for everyone to worry about. Aren't you excited?
Yeah.
There's enough in here for everyone to worry about.
I'm excited.
It's there was a quote in here that they first got wind of it in early 22. So remember the government said something earlier this year about beware for a lot of industrial systems, and this is very likely one of the reasons behind the vague warnings. Mm-hmm. So there you go. All right. Well, that was 3 articles for this week. So
okay,
there you go.
You were busy.
How about something fun?
So my something fun is mostly just a short note on something I stumbled across. You are well aware of Ohm's law.
I am.
And as seems to be typical with science-y type folks, or people who are famous later on in life, but they weren't famous when they were alive, or they struggled when they were alive. It's a short article about, Ohm's father was a locksmith, found out that Ohm just liked ice skating and playing billiards rather than studying. So he took his son out of school. In 1806, he sent young Ohm to Switzerland to work as a math tutor. He decided, hey, this is kind of cool. But he was a lecturer, but it was not paying very well. He wrote a geometry textbook, which was praised by the King of Prussia at the time, who offered him a role in a better school and gave him some opportunity to do some research, at which point he was carrying out his experiments and effectively came up with Ohm's law, or what we know as Ohm's law. One of the things that I thought was interesting in here was when he published that paper, I'll quote here, Ohm's work did not meet with the approval did not meet with approval at the time of publication. One critic described his research as a web of naked fancies which can never find the semblance of support from even the most superficial observation of facts. And he who looks on the world with an eye of reverence must turn aside from this as a result of an incurable delusion whose sole effort is to distract from the dignity of nature.
Oh my gracious. Incurable delusion. AKA
and
fact.
As Ohm at the time was a school teacher and word of this publication reached the Minister of Education, he said, a professor who preached such heresies was unworthy to teach science. And that rejection led to Ohm resigning his teaching post, and he spent many years seeking university positions, living in poverty, moving between poorly paid teaching jobs. So why does it feel like... maybe this isn't actually fun, but it was one of those things that reminds me a lot of times what people are doing in the moment, they're not famous for what they're doing in the moment, or they're ridiculed or derided, or they don't find that popularity until posthumously, I suppose, is the way to put it.
Yeah.
So,
well, when they're right, that's the thing. When they're right, and when they're
correct,
they're discovered or revealed or realized, and somebody later on. I guess it's hard sometimes to imagine not being discovered if you tried to take credit for something that was earlier. But anyway, no, that's good.
Anyway, there you go.
It's a good story. That's a nice story. I like it.
Keep at it.
That's very cool.
You'll be right after you're dead.
Do good work. Do good work regardless.
That's right.
All right. So I kind of have two, because I finished Severance earlier.
Was that evening. Apple Plus? Apple TV
yes.
Plus? Is that where that's at?
It is. It is, I think.
Was it good?
Yes.
The delay there.
The end of it, my analogy is the cliffs of insanity. Yes, it was a cliffhanger to end all cliffhangers. And so I told my wife, she's like, should I watch it? I'm like, maybe when season 2 comes out, because it was good. It was, but it was clearly not a one and done miniseries. It is definitely
okay.
Well, if that's the end, which it won't be, because I'm sure I've heard of it from a number of players. Although I haven't looked and seen if they've already recorded season 2 or what's going on with that. But anyway, it was good concept, really well executed, very engrossing. I mean, I watched all 9 episodes in the last. Well, maybe that's what I did this weekend. Part of. I watched all 9 this week. So
okay.
Anyway, I definitely would recommend it, but yeah.
I will keep that in mind.
I'm anxious for season 2.
Got it.
All right. But the other thing that's probably more fun is I saw an article about NASA releasing data or observations about the largest icy comet ever seen by astronomers. And so this is the Bernstein comet, or C2014 UN 271. So presumably then it was seen first in 2014. But this is, let's see, so the announcement is more that they've determined the size of the large icy comet because it's too far away for the Hubble even to be able to resolve the nucleus visually. So they say NASA's Hubble Space Telescope has determined the size of the largest icy comet nucleus ever seen by astronomers. Estimated diameter is approximately 80 miles across, making it larger than the state of Rhode Island, about 50 times larger than the heart of most known comets, and its mass is estimated to be a staggering 500 trillion tons, 100,000 times greater than the mass of a typical comet found closer to the sun. So, it's coming from the Oort cloud. 22,000 miles per hour, but from its orbit, it'll never get closer than Saturn's orbit.
That'd do some damage.
Yeah, it would. And that won't be until 2031 because it is on a 3 million year long elliptical orbit. So enjoy it. Enjoy it while it's here. Because, it says Comet Bernardelli-Bernstein follows a 3 million year long elliptical orbit, taking it as far from the sun as roughly half a light year. The comet is now less than 2 billion miles from the sun, falling nearly perpendicular to the plane of our solar system. At that distance, temperatures are only about minus 348 degrees Fahrenheit, only. But that is warm enough for carbon monoxide to sublimate off the surface to produce the dusty coma. But the cool thing about how they measured it is, since they couldn't, directly discriminate discriminate the solid nucleus, they basically have a model. So they know what, or they have a model of what the coma should be like around the nucleus. And then, so they adjust the model to match the visual images, including the coma and everything else, and then subtract the coma itself, and then they're left with the nucleus, which they were able to kind of spot check, and they believe matches the bright spot kind of at the center of the image to come up with the estimate for 80 miles across.
Cool.
So software is also eating comets.
And on that note...
There you go.
Nice.
All right, so there you go. Something fun.
That's more fun.
All right, good.
Very cool.
Check. Box checked.
That's right. All right, John.
All right.
Have a good evening.
Have a good evening. I will talk to you later.
We'll see you.
Bye.
Bye.